Today we have 5 essential tips and tricks for new players here in Path of Exile 2. If you find anything useful, smash subscribe and let's get into this one. So tip number 1 is going to be all about staying alive. So pay attention to your defensive stats as you're acquiring new gear. Armor will protect you from physical damage, but it's also worth holding on to a few pieces of gear that roll with elemental resistances. At a certain point, you will start fighting enemies that deal elemental damage types, and if you're unprepared, you can very easily die in 1 or 2 hits. For example, in Act 1, the final boss throws out a lot of cold damage, and if you go into this fight without any cold resistance, you will likely die very quickly. These stats can roll in most gear slots, however you can also get a big chunk from the charms and the rings, so keep your eye out for these. But there are even more defensive stats that can save you in this game. Max life is obvious, but something like the energy shield can really be a game changer early on. For example, here on the sorceress, you can take several passive nodes early on that will increase your energy shield capacity, but will also increase the charge rate and the delay, allowing you to get your shield back within seconds. Add some additional energy shield on some gear items, and then you can effectively double your life total. Nice. Tip number 2 is about gold. I recommend holding on to your gold until you see something that is a true upgrade in the shop. Early on, you just won't have enough to spend on gambling for random items, and it's not worth spending all of your gold for just a minor upgrade. Wait until you see something in the shop that will actually boost your damage or your survivability in a significant way. Gold can be used to respec. It can also be used to respec your passive tree. If you find yourself feeling a bit stuck with your current build, spending a bit of gold at the hooded one in the main camp will allow you to respec all of your passive nodes. Can be expensive early game, however. The hooded one is unlocked pretty early on in the campaign. It's worth noting you can also identify your unidentified items at the hooded one, so you can save your wisdom scrolls for when you're out adventuring. Tip number 3 is about skills and skill combos. Skills in Path of Exile 2 are designed in such a way they can interact with each other, creating interesting combinations. For example, here on the Sorceress, you can throw out your Orb of Storms, which will then allow your lightning abilities to chain more while standing inside the orb's AoE. Or you can throw out your Wall of Flame, which will then allow your spark to catch fire as it passes through, dealing additional fire damage along the way. This can really boost your early game DPS output. There are a lot of skills and support gems to work with here, so experiment with them as you unlock more to see what kind of builds you can come up with. This system is one of Path of Exile 2's greatest strengths and allows you to really make your build your own. Tip number 4 is about Spirit. So this system is not really very well explained in game. Spirit is an additional resource that can be used to grant additional buffs or effects that are either active at all times or have a specific activation method. You'll see your first Spirit gem after about level 10. The effects vary from class to class. Here on the Sorceress, I recommend taking the Arctic Armor. It's available early on and provides quite a nice survivability boost. These are activated in the same way your usual uncut gems are, so keep your eye out for these along your journey. Tip number 5 is going to be about movement and positioning. The dodge rolling is basically a requirement here in Path of Exile 2. Learning when to dodge to avoid taking damage is a big part of the gameplay loop, especially early on. You can roll as many times as you like. There is no stamina system in this game. However, your character's default movement speed is pretty slow, especially early on. So keep your eye out for boots that can roll with the plus movement speed affix. This can really help you avoid taking damage early on. But positioning really is key in a lot of these boss fights. Learning boss patterns does take a bit of time. Learning when you should be dodging and when you can concentrate on DPS in these encounters really is key. Having some abilities that do single target DPS as well as some abilities that can do mob clear, it really is a balanced way to approach combat in this game. If you focus only on mob clear, for example, your single target DPS may be lacking and then you might struggle in some of these boss fights. I do have a bonus tip for you at the end of the video here. I actually recommend taking your time as you play through Path of Exile 2's campaign. There really is no need to rush through to the end game as quickly as possible. I think you're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice by taking this approach. I understand that some PoE vets maybe want to get to the end game as quickly as possible and that sort of thing, but I honestly think for new players this is the wrong approach. There really is a lot of content available here in the campaign. There are additional encounters you can very easily miss, hidden bosses with additional loot drops, and all that sort of stuff. I suspect a normal playthrough of this game's campaign could take somewhere up to 50 hours for a new player. There really is no need to rush. Take your time to learn the game's mechanics, learn how the skills interact with each other. If you're still struggling on a boss fight and you feel underleveled, there really is no harm in exploring some of these areas on the map, especially the ones you may have neglected earlier. This can net you extra abilities and more useful loot, and hey, it's fun, so I've really been enjoying Path of Exile 2 thus far. If you guys are keen for any more beginner type guides, let me know what you're interested in seeing with a comment down below. Happy to do any other guide type content on this game as we play through the campaign and get into the end game, so let me know. Just at the end of the video here, I'm going to show you a couple of interesting combinations that we've come up with on the Sorceress here. And guys, if you enjoyed this one, if you found anything useful, smash like and subscribe. I will catch you in the next one. Have a great day wherever you are.